Hello, good afternoon. My name is Jo. I'm from Specialist Language Courses, and today we are doing a live Q&A. So any questions you have, please type in the chat and I will try and answer as many as I can. Okay, hi, nice to see you. Let me know where you are in the world and let me know if you're taking your exam soon. Okay, so lovely to have you all here today. So if you've got a question for me, just put it in the chat or the comments and I will try and answer your questions. Before we begin, just to let you know, we've got a brand new course, brand new OET course, which is run by OET and SLC. It's called OET Prepare. It starts in a few weeks' time. So if you're taking an exam soon, at the end of the year, I would suggest enrolling on this course. It's on our website. You can download the syllabus, OET Prepare. Do check us out. Okay, so any questions, please start typing them into the chat and I will answer as many of them as I can today in today's session. So we do this once a week. Once a month or once a week, and we're here on the last Wednesday of every session. Okay, so we've got some questions coming in. I'm just having a look at them. All right, so let's have a little look what we got going on here. All right, so we've got a question from Jojo Thomas. Hi, is it okay to write QDS, TDS regarding medication frequency when writing to a specialist? If it's a known abbreviation, I think you can use it. If you're unsure, just write twice a day, 3 times a day, whatever it is. Yeah, I would say that's a good thing to do. All right. Okay, got a question from Yasser from Iraq. Hi, Yasser. I want to learn how to manage my time. We don't specify which paper it is, but yeah, time management is tricky. We do know that. It is quite difficult to keep control of your time. I think for writing, really important that you use those 5 minutes reading time effectively. Look at the task in any notes. Who are you writing to? What's their role? What are you asking them to do? What's the purpose of the letter? Then read through the notes, thinking about what's relevant to include, what's not. And then when the 40 minutes writing time starts, don't just pick up your pen and start writing. It's a really good idea to make a brief plan, first of all. You double check the information, annotate the case notes, underline things, tick things, whatever system you have. Make a brief plan so you know exactly what information you're including and in what order. And then all you need to do is think about clear language to express this information, and then you can check afterwards. Okay, for time management in reading A, it's so important that you use time effectively. You've got to go for reading A. Also a question from Mohammed, difficulty in reading part A. Absolutely, this is, reading part A is not tricky. It's just difficult in terms of the time management that you've got. Yeah. So you've got 15 minutes and 20 questions. So it's really important that you use this time effectively. So what are you looking for? What information is going to complete the answer? What phrases will help you find words in the question or sentence? Underline them. What text are you going to look in A, B, C, or D? Go to that text. Scan for the answer. You don't need to read for detail. You're looking for a word. So if you're looking for a number or a medication or something like that, scan for that. Yeah, write it down, be confident, move on to the next one. If you can't find the answer straight away, it's really important that you move on. You can always come back to it later. Relating to Relating to reading A, I have another question here about reading part A. Do we need to change our answer based on the question and if it needs singular or plural? Well, the simple answer here is no, you should not. You need to write exactly what's written on the text for reading A, okay? Do not change the answers or anything like that. You shouldn't have to change the answer. It should fit grammatically. If you change the answer, you will not get the point. You'll get it marked incorrectly. Okay. All right, just having a look at some more questions here. All right. Question about how much is OET Prepare? I'm not sure. I believe the price is on our website. So go to our website. You'll be able to see how much it is there. All right. Okay, question about how to improve reading part C from Shraddha. Hi. It's a difficult part of the OET exam. I do appreciate that. Reading C is difficult. Practice. Reading, and not just doing practice papers. It's really important that you develop your reading skills. So there are lots of reading skills that you need to utilize in reading part C. So reading for detail, reading for the writer's opinion or someone that he mentions. You've got to look at vocabulary in context or referencing phrases, and be able to work out what they're referring to or what idea they're reinforcing. So this is something that you can practice with any text. My favorite website for this is theconversation.com. It has sort of OET length texts in it. And it's full of language of attitude and opinion. So you really need to read, practice summarizing main ideas, identifying the main idea of a paragraph, language. You really need to build your vocabulary and language for attitude and opinion for reading C, as well as adopting the strategies, the correct strategies for reading C. So what I would recommend is, well, first of all, number the paragraph so you can find the relevant paragraph quickly. Number 2 would be read the question, turn it into a question if it's just a sentence. Focus on the key words there. What is the question really asking? Then read the relevant paragraph, breaking it down into units of meaning. Then go through the different options. Yeah, yes, no, maybe, yes, no, maybe, yes, no, maybe, yes, no, maybe. And then if you've got, a couple of maybes, go back to the question again and really decide which one is being answered in the paragraph. Okay, so let's have a little look. Okay, we've got some more questions here. Let's have a little look. Okay, minor errors in listening part A acceptable? This is a good question. It's something that we recently had a training session with OET about this, and minor spelling errors at a C1 level are acceptable, but the majority of words you're expected to have a certain level, and that includes knowing the spelling. I think pay particular attention to singulars and plurals because they do change the meaning of what happens. So I think it's really, really important that if it's singular, you write singular. If it's plural, you write plural. I think it's important to develop your vocabulary on a range of the healthcare professionals, which could come up in the OET listening A. as well as medical specialists, so gastroenterology, cardiology, neurology, all those kinds of things. I think build up a bank of common words and phrases relating to conditions. Make sure you know how to spell them. Otherwise, you're not going to be confident in writing when you're listening in listening A. So build your vocabulary, practice the spelling, and really, really do keep a vocabulary notebook, range of professions, range of specialisms. Okay. Right, we've got more questions coming through here. Can you explain regarding OET writing, especially how to write the disease conditions in the introduction paragraph? So I think you'll mention the current medical issue with in the first paragraph if it's relevant. So say, for example, you're doing a referral to an endocrinologist, patient's recently been diagnosed with diabetes, or maybe they've got unstable diabetes. So you'd mention that. So something like, I'm writing regarding Mrs. Smith, who presents with unstable diabetes. She requires your management and advice, for example. You do it like that. Or I'm writing regarding Mr. Jones, who was recently treated for a heart attack in hospital. He's being discharged today, but requires ongoing care. So that's a good way to do it. I'm writing regarding the name, then a comma, who, and then explain the context. Was recently treated for this, was recently diagnosed with this, or who has this, and then full stop. And then you could mention what needs to happen. Yeah, he requires ongoing care. Your further assessment would be appreciated. Something like that. Okay. Oops. Excuse me. All right, we have some more. He tried treatment at home. A question from Jojo Thomas. He tried treatment at home, but in vain. Is this correct usage? No, don't use the phrase in vain. It's not appropriate. I would say, the treatment was completed at home, but was ineffective, would be more appropriate to use. All right. Okie dokie. What else have we got? Can we write on our question booklet? Good question, Alshi. Yes, you can. It's be a bit different if you're doing the computer-based one, but if you're doing the paper-based exam, yes, do write on your question booklet. Underline things if it helps you. Absolutely. You should be allowed to write on your booklet. Absolutely, and annotate. If a testing center is not letting you, this would mean to bring up with OET themselves or the test center. You should be able to do that. Okay. Okay. Not really sure what you're saying, Jitendra. Can I use cursive writing for the writing part? Yes, you can use any writing you want as long as it's legible. Okay, so make sure that it's understandable. Clear writing, but yeah, absolutely, you can do joined up writing, non-joined up writing, whatever your writing is, whatever you feel comfortable with, as long as it's clear. Okay, got a question from Shraddha. In writing, how can we decide to emphasize which part of the history to exclude when writing to a social worker, physiotherapist, doctor, home nurse? Just a quick review. Okay, well, it would take a long time to go through all of that, but I think in terms of selecting relevant information, who are you writing to? If you're writing to a social worker, think, what's their role? What do? They help people with problems in the community. They don't deal with medical situations, so you would not include their medical history unless it's specifically relating to something that you're asking, but you're probably not. You'll probably give social background that's relevant to what you're asking them to do. So in all OET letters, it's all based on the purpose of the letter, what you're asking the reader to do. Yeah. So if you're writing to a home nurse, who, a community nurse who's going to visit the patient at home, think about, what's their role? What aspect of the patient's care are they involved in? Okay, what are you specifically asking them to do? And then in terms of background, what do they need to know that relates to that care to be provided? So, for example, if you're asking them to do wound care, you'd perhaps give them information on the current condition of the wound, for example. Yeah. If you're asking them to help with ADLs, you might give them indications as to their current mobility or capabilities. Yeah, so thinking about that. If you're a physiotherapist, if you're writing to a physiotherapist and you're asking them to do physiotherapy sessions, you'd perhaps include why the physiotherapy is needed. Have they just had an operation? Did they have an accident or a fall or something, or a strain? Yeah, and then think about also what other things you might need to include, such as occupational therapy intervention. Are they going to his home to provide mobility aids? You'd probably include that, but you wouldn't include any medication because a physiotherapist isn't involved in medication. Okay. Question from Andrew. Every time my speaking score is 340, what's the problem behind that? Without doing a speaking test with you, I'm afraid I can't give you any more indication as that. 340 is very close. So I would suggest that you go to the criteria and go through that and make sure that you're fulfilling all of the criteria, particularly the clinical communication criteria. Are you pausing and encouraging the patient to respond? Are you using signposting and linking phrases? Are you exploring their concerns? Could you tell me if you're particularly concerned about anything? Yeah. Are you checking they understand? Are you using lots of empathy and a respectful attitude? Yeah. Rather than just working through the task. So I think that would be a good thing to do. Okay, I've got another question about writing. What about recommendation paragraph in writing? Not sure what the question is there, Aishwarya. You're not always going to have a recommendation paragraph if there isn't lots of things to recommend. But if you have lots of things that you need to request from the reader, then it might be relevant to have a paragraph. And if it's discharge, for example, you do after discharge, it would be appreciated if you could, and then put the most important request first, if you could monitor his medication compliance. In addition, please could you encourage him to engage in physical activity and monitor his diet? Yeah, for example. So you put them in order of importance. Yeah. You're very welcome. Okay, question here for patients, GP, known case. Can I refer the patient instead of update the health status? It will reduce my mark or not? I'm not sure I understand the question, Andrew. I think if you are writing to the patient's GP, you wouldn't be referring, you'd be discharging. So you could say, for example, I'm writing regarding your patient, Mr. Smith, who was recently treated in hospital for a pulmonary embolism or whatever. Yeah. Or you might say, I'm writing to update you about your patient who was recently admitted to the emergency department with whatever. Okay, so that's what you can do if you're writing to a patient's GP. Okay, let's have a little look here. All right. All right, let's have a little look. Okay, another question. Some tips about reading Part C and listening Part C. Well, we've talked a little bit about reading Part C. Let's go to let's go to list part C. So I think this is, again, is a very tricky paper to do. I think it's very important that you, no, it's not working. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the comments. All right. Okay. So for listening C, the pre-listening time is key. Okay. Pre-listening time is key. You have 90 seconds to read through 6 questions and options. So that's about 15 seconds per question. Okay, that should be enough time. So for listening C, you really need to use that pre-listening time. Notice the structure of the presentation or interview. Yeah. So notice the structure, and I think focus on the questions, underline keywords, be clear what it's asking. And you must read through the options. You can't do this while you're listening because it's just too difficult to do. So read through the options, notice the differences between them, underline keywords if it helps you to focus, and be ready. And then when you're listening, you need to listen out for signposting clues that the answer is coming up. So they'll give you some indication that they're changing topic and perhaps moving on to the next question, or that the answer is coming up. So they'll give some sort of reference. So you need to train your ears to listen out for that. Every time you do listening C practice, is a good idea to listen again and listen out specifically for those signposting cues, and then compare with the transcript. I think that will really help with that. Okay. All right. Any more questions? Please do have a look. Please make a note of any questions you have in the comments, and I will try to answer them. All right, so we have, can I write notes on the paper listening part? Well, yeah, you can annotate the paper. I think that's quite important to do. Annotate the paper, things. I wouldn't make notes as in, if you mean making notes like listening and writing notes of what the speaker said, I wouldn't recommend that, because I think you're not going to be concentrating on the question and how to answer it. So I think it's really important that you don't write what the speaker's saying, but you can underline things, absolutely, and make notes and things like that. You can write a few synonyms before you listen, but you definitely can annotate the paper. Yeah, so I think that's definitely something that you can do. And I think if it really helps you to focus, underlining keywords can help. Maybe if sometimes you have questions that aren't questions, they're sentences that you complete with the options. I think it's a good idea to maybe turn those sentences into questions to help you focus. So you might think about doing that. Okay, all right. Any questions? Let me know. We've got a couple of minutes left, so if you have any questions, please do let us know. All right, let's have a little look. Any questions? All right, just going through the comments just to check that I haven't missed any. Nagenzani, is it possible to club results from OET computer and the ones from paper? I don't know. You need to check out with the OET website, but yes is my answer. I think probably yes, but you would need to check, okay? Because I'm not OET. I would think so, yes. It shouldn't matter whether you take the computer-based or the paper-based. Yeah, it should be that. Okie dokie. How many sentences or lines should be including while writing each paragraph in a letter writing? Does it matter? Good question. How long is a paragraph? Good question. I think it depends what you're including it. Sometimes you might have a slightly longer paragraph. Sometimes you might have a very short paragraph with just 2 sentences in it. It really depends on what you're including. But a paragraph should be between maybe 2 to 4 sentences as a general rule. I think it really depends. But you don't want too much information in one paragraph, because then it's difficult to find. So think about, if you're trying to include too much in a paragraph, think about splitting it into 2. Yeah, okay. Mama, a question about reading and write on the booklet. You can underline things, absolutely, yes. Criteria for writing. That's an interesting question. The criteria for writing, that's quite important. Purpose is important. That must be immediately clear. Okay, immediately clear and well expanded. So in the first paragraph, you want the patient's name, how they're connected to you, what's the context, and what are their current care needs, for example. Okay, content, so important that the reader has all the information they need in order to carry out the required action, and that it's accurately represented. Conciseness and clarity is about how you summarize the key points in the case relating to the purpose of the letter, but also avoiding irrelevant information that the reader does not need to do in order to provide the care. You then have genre and style. So that's about using a formal, factual language. So you don't want any language of opinion. For example, you don't want unfortunately or anything like that. Polite request phrase, for example, it would be appreciated if you could. That would be good. So have a little think about the language that you use. Organization and layout, it's got to be logical. We've got a question here from Andrew. Can I write social history and medical history together? I mean, you can, but would you need to? Do you need to include social history? I mean, you need to ask yourself this question. A lot of the time, social history is not relevant. So you can if you think it's logical. So think about that. If you have to talk about medical and social, it might be more relevant to do everything about medical together. So, history, treatment, future care needs, and then address, also there's some social care that needs attending to. So you might then do a paragraph about social history and action to be taken regarding that. So think about organizing it like that in themes. Yeah. So organization and layout's important. And then finally, language, very important. So you need to have, wide and flexible use of language. So it's really important to work on your language accuracy for OET. I think, save some time at the end of the letter for checking, know what your common errors are. Are they errors with past simple, for example, past perfect, present perfect? Do you always make errors with articles? And then, check for those before you finish. Okay. Can you please send a list of words that are not allowed to be used in the writing? Well, just off the top of my head, you don't want to use anything that is negative. So, he has a bad diet, that they're considered judgmental. You don't want to use words like suffer from, complain of, because they have negative connotations. And you don't want to use things like regrettably and unfortunately, anything that indicates your opinion. Okay. All right. We are coming to the end of the session. So just to remind you, we do have a new course that's coming up, OET Prepare. Do check us out, a full read about the syllabus there and what's involved in the course. Okay. Don't forget to follow us on social media, and we've got lots of great videos on our YouTube channel. We've got more coming up at the end of the year, so please do follow us for those. Okay, and that's it from me. So we'll be back here at the end of September for another Q&A. In the meantime, you can always catch us on our social media platforms. You can always drop us a question on our YouTube channel. We will always try to reply to all the comments, and I hope to see you very, very soon. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. And if you're taking the exam soon, good luck. Happy OET studying. Bye.